Hello and welcome to this CNBC-TV18 special, and today we are joined by a guest who is superannuating on 31st March and whom especially I know since 2012, Rohit K Singh, Secretary Consumer Affairs. A very warm welcome to our show.
Thank you.
When we talk to you, we talk about consumer rights, we talk about a lot of topics that actually are the pulse of the people. To begin with, something that has been bothering the government, and you have been a key role playing department when it comes to curbing inflation. We recently saw RBI again making a statement that inflation is going to be on the watch list of the government for next 1 year. That is, the coming fiscal is going to be again a year where inflation rates of a lot of key commodities is going to be a cause of concern, and government is keeping a close watch. How do you see inflation and the trends in inflation?
So I think RBI is right. Inflation is something to watch, and globally food inflation has been a matter of concern. But I can say with a lot of sincerity that India has been able to manage its food inflation really well when it compares to other geographies. So how does it all work? So I think it starts with very proactive monitoring and then taking policy decisions quickly. I think in commodities, timing is the key, and our governance framework from the Interministerial Committee of Secretaries to the Committee of Secretaries headed by the Cabinet Secretary to the group of ministers headed by Honorable Home Ministers. This works in tandem and it works very fast, because you have to realize that prices of commodities, have two dimensions. One is we have to support the farmer. The other is we have to make sure that the consumer is able to get goods both in an affordable way, and they have to be available. So availability and affordability are two key paradigms on which we work. And I think by taking decisions proactively through this governance framework, we have been able to manage it fine.
Pulses continue to be an area which your department specially caters to. A lot of India's consumption is dependent on imports, and your department is the one who negotiates the prices, ensures that there is enough available in the country for consumption so that there is no shortage. How are you firefighting the prices of pulses?
So you're right, absolutely right. Pulses is one commodity that keeps us busy and on our feet all the time. And if you look at the pulses basket, we consume about 280 lakh tons and we produce about 270, 275 lakh tons. So there is this differential. But if you look at it pulse wise, for example, tur dal or arhar dal, it is known by these two names. We produce about 34 lakh tons, but we consume about 44 lakh tons. So this deficit of 10 lakh tons has to be met through imports. So we import from East African countries and Myanmar. So we constantly have to watch the production in these two geographies and ensure that the flow of imports is seamless and without any problem, because that is how we ensure the availability within the country. So a consistent import policy, a seamless flow of imports through our ports, and keeping an eye on the overseas production. That has to be done almost on a daily basis. That is why we have been able to ensure that the prices are high, I'm saying, but we have not let it go further higher. So that has been a success. But other than tur, chana prices, urad prices, moong prices, and especially the lentil prices, the masoor, that is totally under control. And there is enough supply available within the country, so there is no reason to worry for the consumer.
When it comes to onion exports, after the ban, the exporters are not happy, farmers are unhappy in the country. We saw a lot of rage, we saw a lot of protest. Where are we? How would the government like to soothe the nerves of onion exporters?
So I want to challenge that hypothesis. I don't think farmers are unhappy. It is a segment of the trade which was, the prices in India FOB were like $340, but in overseas markets like Bangladesh, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, they were at about $1,000. So a segment of the trade obviously wanted to make that killing, which we have prevented, because for us domestic supplies are very important, because if you let the stuff go out, then the availability in the domestic market suffers. So I don't know whether you keep track, but onion prices in retail, all India retail, we check it every day. We have not let it go beyond 30-35 rupees. So it is only possible because of the policy interventions like ban of export and other stuff, so that for the domestic consumers, the availability and affordability is ensured, which for any government, any benevolent government, is a top priority. You have to first take care of your people, and then you can think of exports. As far as farmer is concerned, even today we check the retail prices in Lasalgaon and Nasik mandis. It's in the range of 13 to 15 rupees. So, of good quality onions. So 15 rupees fetches a good price for the farmer. So farmer is not being shortchanged. It's just the differential between the overseas price and the domestic FOB that some traders obviously would suffer, but we have to take care of the domestic consumer first.
So 30 rupees per kg is something that the government feels is convenient pricing in retail market, and farmers are still making a...
Right. And the other thing which government has done this year, government has announced that we will be buying 5 lakh tons for the government buffer now. So it will start maybe in 15-20 days from now, when the moisture level of the onion which comes from the farm goes down, so it's dried up. So by ensuring that 5 lakh tons will be bought through NAFED and NCCF from the domestic farmer, it gives further comfort level to the farmer that any kind of crisis in terms of prices crashing will not happen.
When it comes to the other areas that your department looks at, especially when it comes to misleading ads, recently we saw Supreme Court taking cognizance to the misleading ads by Patanjali. And there is a set of guidelines that your department has brought in already. That is something to be a sacrosanct that the entire industry should follow, be it from any sector. What do you have to say? How would you feel that court taking cognizance on the Patanjali matter? And yes, how should others in the industry be watching out for these guidelines?
So I would like to respond in broad terms, not go to any specific example. But yes, we are concerned of misleading advertisements, because we think that the rights of the consumers, get adversely affected by misleading, because you're promising something which is not there. Like we had a case where in Corona times, a shirt manufacturer said, if you wear my shirt, you will not get COVID. And they were duly penalized, probably India's one of the largest shirt manufacturers. So we keep a close eye on misleading advertisements. We also work with other agencies like ASCI, Advertising Standard Council of India, which are a source of information for us for misleading advertisements. But overall, the menace of misleading advertisement has to be curbed, because under the Consumer Protection Act, it's a misleading, it's an unfair trading practice, and it needs to be curbed, because consumer cannot be taken for a ride by providing misleading information through advertisements.
Another key area is surrogate advertisements, where a lot of alcohol manufacturers were penalized. They were told not to get into surrogate advertisements. Your view and what should be a forward-looking view of this department?
So surrogate advertising is a way where the industry like alcohol and tobacco, they try and circumvent the advertising regulation, whether it is banned, and they try and use it as a extension of brand extension. So like there'll be an alcohol brand that will sell glasses with the same brand name. So that is not permitted, and we engaged with the industry in Mumbai and also in Delhi, and we said, no, you cannot do this. And we also have set of guidelines ready, and we've also asked them that suppose sometimes they come with an excuse that, I'm not selling this alcohol, but I'm just selling a glass or a soda water or a CD or drinking water, the mineral water. So we said, no, you have to give us detail, and CCPA, which I chair now, has just issued an order about a week back that they have to give us the value of the advertising on the extended brand vis-a-vis the actual revenue they get from the sales. Because any normal business practice will have you advertise in proportion of the revenues of that product. So if it is out of proportion, that means the surrogate advertising is being indulged into, and that's an unfair trading practice.
So that was Rohit Singh talking about inflation. Many more areas that we are yet to ask him upon, especially on the rights of consumers. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to this special edition of CNBC TV18, where we are in conversation with Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Singh, coming up with guidelines on battery manufacturers which are used for electric vehicles. A lot of electric vehicles were actually, still trying to circumvent the basic guidelines. Where are we? What is the view now? And how will government try and monitor this space in the future?
So there are two aspects when it comes to EV batteries. What we were concerned with was the standards for battery swapping. So battery swapping is you have a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler. You go to something like a petrol pump, you give your old battery, pick up a new battery and move on. So a lot of work had gone into making standards for that. But then after consulting with all the stakeholders, we realized that if you prescribe standards of size, of the type of the connector or the battery management system, which is BMS, then you are actually stifling innovation. You cannot prescribe standards for an industry which is still growing. And there are technologies coming up, lithium ion is there, then of course there's talk of sodium and solid state and other chemical technologies in battery. So if you prescribe a standard now, then you are stifling innovation. So we said, okay, performance and safety, yes, we should have standards. But on the other thing, let the standards evolve and let these be horizontal kind of standards. So that is the current thinking in the government.
Social media influencers, another key area where a lot of guidelines were there. Financial advisors, influencers came under the purview of SEBI also. A lot of action has been taken on that side. What is the view, and how best can this space be regulated so that consumers' right is protected and they continue to work as well?
So it's a very tricky thing to handle, because we have seen the boom in terms of influencers and social media, their strength on social media. And you will see people with 25 million followers, 50 million followers on various aspects, cooking, gaming, fashion and many other things. So we have only made very simple guidelines like do's and don'ts, that you have to disclose that if you have a connection with something you are endorsing, if you have taken either money or any other material benefit, then the consumer has the right to know that this is not your fair opinion, but you have taken money to say that. So nobody is stopping you to do that, but please disclose your connection. It's just like celebrity endorsements. So if you're endorsing, you have to tell. And like you said, on 2-3 things which can be harmful, like health influencers. So if somebody is peddling a particular protein or a particular medicine on social media, then he has to disclose his or her qualifications. Are you a doctor? Are you a nutritionist? Were you trained in this? How are you saying this? Number one. And number two, like you said, where we also wrote to SEBI, and I think SEBI is taking a lot of action on that, that if you are giving a financial advice, then you have to have a disclaimer, and that space has to be very closely regulated, because especially with artificial intelligence and deep fakes happening, people can get misguided. And we have seen examples of some very high level of celebrities, their videos being made into deep fake videos, and they asking to invest. I was in a conference with the consumer protection judges and activists in Mumbai on the World Consumer Day. And one lady from Punjab, she was member of one of our commissions. And she said, sir, she also works on the social side. She said there are rural women in Fazilka district. They have come to her and said, we saw this video where Ratan Tata is saying you invest 2,000 rupees in this, and we know it is deep fake, and how do you prevent that? So these are some of the challenges which will emerge in coming times, especially the use of deep fake, not just in investment, in elections, in many other aspects in health. So we need to have a very we need to work extensively in this domain as to how the whole world is struggling with it. So I think everybody has to sit on the same platform, have to be on the same page and decide on how much is to be regulated, how is it to be regulated, and how to protect the interest of the consumers or the common citizens from this onslaught of AI.
When it comes to healthcare treatments and the charges, Consumer Affairs Department has been writing to both Health Ministry, Ayush Ministry, etc. And also when it comes to NCDRCs, a lot of judgments have come in the recent past where healthcare treatment charges were found to be unfair, the treatments were found to be unfair. How to regulate this space, because now Supreme Court is also hearing this matter. They've asked Health Ministry to do a stakeholders consultation with states and come with a sort of a basic ruling where there are certain set standards across the country for treatments. There should be some basic minimum charges and that's what to be charged, and they should be same across the country. Since consumers are involved here, what is your view? I'm sure you are also a stakeholder here.
So we are a stakeholder, but we don't regulate charges because that is not our domain. That is the domain of the Health Ministry. And when it comes to pharma, there is National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority. But yes, we are concerned when it comes to unfair practices. So if there is an unfair medical practice, then people can come to consumer commissions and consumer courts, and they have been coming. Let me give you a statistics. Out of the 540,000 cases that India has in its consumer courts at all the three levels, national, state and districts, 1/3 pertain to insurance. 160,000 cases pertain to insurance. And we have taken a note of it. We did a roundtable in the Vigyan Bhavan with the stakeholders from the commission, that is judges, the insurance industry, the finance ministry, the NGOs. And we sat and throughout the day we deliberated as to maybe there is some systemic changes that are required, because otherwise why will so many people come to courts? And things are happening. There are many good judgments by Honorable Supreme Court and NCDRC. And this thing is getting structured. But as you said, in medical negligence and medical insurance, when you buy travel insurance, when you're traveling and suddenly the travel agent says, "Sir, isko bhi le lijiye travel insurance," what exactly is covered in that travel insurance which you're buying with your air ticket, especially if you're traveling overseas? The consumer is not clear as to what is covered, what is not covered. So we need to have a separate regulation for that. Another thing which President NCDRC brought to our notice is a medical insurance is only applicable when you are treated as an inpatient. And the way they define inpatient is you have to have 24-hour plus hospitalization.
Yes.
With the advancement of technology, now there are many procedures which can be done in 6-7 hours and you can go home. I'll give you an example, gallbladder removal. You know, the thing which happens in eye, I'm forgetting the name, the surgery. So it happens and you can go home in 6-7 hours. Cataract, right. So now you are in hospital less than 24 hours. So are you not, is it not admissible for medical insurance? So I think they have had judgment, and we also wrote to IRDAI and the Finance Ministry that all these aspects, because everything is evolving, so we need to keep changes so that consumer is adequately protected.
I think IRDAI is working that it should be only for a limited number of hours, and post that the insurance claims can be initiated.
Exactly.
When it comes to the entire service charge battle at restaurants, that is something that was quite eventful, and people are anxiously waiting that they should not be allowed to pay service charges. It should be voluntary and not mandatory.
Exactly.
A tussle is going on between the restaurants and the department in the court. Where are we? How soon do we see a judgment or a resolution here? And will it be in the favor of the consumers?
So there is no tussle here. We are just fighting for the right of the consumers who go and eat in the restaurants. So we are saying, we have the firm belief that service charge is like a gratuity or a tip, and it cannot be forced upon. Only when you are happy with the service, you pay the tip. So, and all that argument about, paying the waiters out of that kitty is not a logical argument, because we are saying, okay, if you want to do that, you increase the price on the menu. But don't disguise the charges. Don't fool the consumer. That's the fundamental principle. So when the bill comes, it says taxes, of course, everybody has to pay. And then it says SC, service charge. Half of people don't know what is SC. And you're there with your family and guests, your boyfriend or girlfriend, and now you don't want to fight there in front of the your esteemed guest there, and then that is being forced upon you, and even the percentage is different. Somebody will charge 5, somebody will say 10, somebody will say 12. So this is not done. You have to tell just by putting it in the window that this restaurant charges service charges. It does not. You cannot, it's like saying for you enter this mall and you only charge 50 rupees. Arey bhai, why? Because any charge has to be justified. So, and this argument that you pay waiters extra of that kitty is not. If I have to pay waiter extra, I will pay it part of the gratuity or kitty. So it's there in the court, and I think one more hearing it will be sorted out, hopefully in favor of the consumer of this country.
So another hearing, and it could be in the favor of the consumers. One more aspect where your department worked very closely was legal metrology, where India has attained now a major global presence, especially when it comes to a lot of gadgets that we now keep on a daily basis at our home, say a thermometer or a BP machine or a weighing scale, and a lot many such common use items that are available at our homes, but there's no basic standard, and that's what your department was working on. Just give us some insight, and how best is India placed on this?
So a lot of advancement has happened on the legal metrology space on the international arena, and we have now become the 13th country in the world to issue certifications for all kinds of weighing and measuring instruments, including the ones that you mentioned. What you mentioned is just which are used by the public, but there are many weighing instruments, high precision, low precision, used by the industry. And for the manufacturers of those instruments in India, if you have to sell that product to, let's say, EU, European Union, so you need a certification here, and you also need a certification there, which takes time, which takes foreign currency and a lot of it. And then it also becomes a hurdle in your export. Now the OIML, which is a French for International Organization for Legal Metrology, they have given India that authority to issue certificates that are internationally acceptable. For example, taking the example that you gave, if a blood pressure meter, sphygmomanometer, is manufactured by an Indian company and it's certified by Indian authorities, then it can be sold anywhere in the world. We already have applications from Czechoslovakia and Russia and other countries to certify their devices, which they want to sell all across the world.
And what about people, so if tomorrow I'm going and buying a thermometer, should I look for this certification on that thermometer?
That certification is anyway there. Without that certification, the item cannot be sold in India. What I am saying is that India issued certificate is now valid in US and EU and all over the world.
So it will be of a basic standard?
Right, because it is now recognized by OIML, which is International Organization of Legal Metrology.
So global standards will be met for manufacturers here as well. Many thanks for joining us. So that was Consumer Affairs Secretary Rohit Kumar Singh talking to us about how inflation is going to be under the watch list for the coming year, and how well prepared is the government when it comes to keeping under check the prices of pulses, onions, and a lot more commodities. And yes, not to forget, creating a buffer in advance to meet the availability at affordable prices for the consumers in India. Also, his views on misleading ads, and yes, the consumer rights when it comes to social media influencers, deepfakes, AI, and a lot more. So that was Rohit Kumar Singh talking to us before he makes an exit from Consumer Affairs Department.